Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is, I don't have a lot of debt and I only have one credit card, yet I can't seem to get my credit score to move up. What credit score hacks can you offer that could boost my credit score quickly? Okay, so let's just first talk about the importance of having a high credit score. Just in everyday usage, it'll save you money because you'll have a lower interest rate, which means that if you're carrying a debt, it will cost you less to service the debt. Second, it will give you better offers on loans, like a mortgage, if you want to buy a house, which ends up, again, cheaper. Matter of fact, if your credit score is too low, you won't even qualify for a mortgage or other loans, car loans, different types of loans. So having a good credit score, and we say good, mid 700s or more is a good credit score, will afford you lower interest rates, will give you offers for larger debts, larger loans that you wouldn't be eligible for otherwise. And it can also create leverage, meaning if you have a lot of available credit, you can utilize that credit to purchase investments that service the debt. So we use it for leverage. So having a good credit score is important when we're talking about the wealth building process. But now we have to understand what makes up or what factors impact your credit score. So there are basically 5 major factors that impact credit score, and they each hold a specific weight, a percentage. So payment history is the number one factor, holds 35% of the weight of what your credit score would be. Credit utilization is 30% of what your credit score makes up your credit score. Credit history is 15%. Credit mix is 10%. And new credit inquiries is another 10%. So understanding that will give us the opportunity to create the hacks. So you might be violating in some of those areas. So let's just deal with number one, payment history. It's important that you not carry debt, right? So, and it's important not to wait until the end of the billing period to pay your bill if you want to raise your credit score. If you want to maintain it, pay it early and try not to carry debt, even though they offer you the opportunity to carry debt. So try to pay it as soon as you use the card. If you have the money, pay it before the billing cycle is over. That should help boost your credit score. Credit utilization. This is where a lot of people drop the ball. So even though they give you a certain amount of credit, if you use more than 30% of your available credit, meaning if you have $1,000 worth of credit line, and it can be not only on a single card or multiple cards. If it totals 1,000 and you use 30%, more than 30%, which means more than $300. If you use $301 worth of that credit, it's going to lower your credit score. So a lot of people drop the ball in that regard because they'll use 40%, 50%, or even max it out thinking it's okay and it won't impact your score, but it actually will impact your score. So try to stay under the 30% if you're above it right now. And they say the absolute best place to stay is 10%. So credit utilization, make sure you're not going above the 30%. Here's another little trick you can use, or a hack you can use. If you've been a good customer for at least 6 months with this credit card company, then call them and ask them to expand your credit line. So if now you go from $1,000 credit line to a $2,000 credit line and you spent $300, it's not 30% anymore, it's only 15%. Now you're in a great place. So periodically, every 6 months or so, ask them to increase your credit line because you're a good customer. And usually, if you're a good customer, they'll do it. It may not be that big of a jump. That's a 100% jump. But usually they'll do it incrementally and keep raising your credit line. That's important. If you've been a good customer with them, you can also ask for an additional card in their company, right? And they use it, they won't do an inquiry, which is going to be important, which is down the road. They won't do an inquiry because you're already a good customer. And now, when we talked about the healthy mix, and it's a weird thing. Healthy mix is such a bizarre thing. But if you only have one credit line, then you're still a credit risk. So now you increase the credit. You have multiple lines of credit. Even though that's not a real mix, it's just more than one line of credit. It's going to help. Credit history. We talked about how. So number one thing, do not close any card. I don't care how much you hate that company. Once you close that card, the history of that card is gone. So if you had that card for 5 years, 5 years worth of history is gone. So how do you increase history? If you know someone who has a good credit score, who has a long credit history, you can ask them to be an authorized user on one of their cards. They don't even have to give you a card. Doesn't matter. You immediately inherit the history. So that's a great way, just a big loophole in the system that allows you to increase your score by increasing your history. The credit mix, again, if we go back to the healthy mix, if you're eligible to get some other type of loans, so a car note, I don't know, sometimes with a cell phone, sometimes they report if you can get it on credit. If you can get other lines of credit other than a credit card, that's a healthy mix of credit, you'll see your credit score go up. And let me see, limit the new inquiries, try not to do that. And here's a big thing. Check your credit report, because there could be some errors on the report that you can have removed. There could be some old derogatory remarks that should have been off, or you can even just challenge some derogatory remarks on there. And if they don't get it off if they don't prove that it belongs there in a certain amount of days, it has to come off, and that also can boost your credit score. So those are some tips that should really help. But make sure you don't just sit there and do nothing and let your credit score remain where it is, because in the long run, it is hurting you, and having a better credit score will definitely help. If you have some other tips or some other hacks that you'd like to share, please put them in the comments. But like, share, subscribe, keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.